Welcome back. This is the 25th segment of Making Sense for 7 Minutes, a summer-long series, Monday through Friday, where we are surveying in bite-sized pieces our historical narrative as given to us in the Bible. And, as always, asking the immeasurably relevant question, so what? Let me suggest an approach for getting an overview of the Old Testament. If perhaps you look at it as laid out on a timeline, walk around and explore the first 3 chapters. They serve, if you will, as Act 1 for all of the subsequent events that take place. Then fly up to 50,000 feet, and you'll notice that from that point on, what the Old Testament really deals with is the people of God and the prophecies that are given to those people concerning the coming of the Messiah, Jesus. Then zoom in a bit closer and examine the moral law, the 10 Commandments, whose predominant purpose is to expose why it is that we need a Savior. Now, the Bible as a whole is 66 books. And if you're new to it, I do not recommend that you sit down and try to read it from front cover to back cover. There are some people who have, there are some people who still do. There are some people who still watch Gone with the Wind and the Sound of Music. So what can I say? But the reason that I caution you is the structure of the Bible. Just look at the Old Testament. There you have 39 books. And by the way, one of the ways to remember that, and if you want a fun fact to know and tell at a cocktail party when the conversation lags, did you know that the Old Testament has 39 books? Yeah. Well, there are 3 letters in the word old, and there are 9 letters in the word testament. You put them together and you get 39. You're welcome. Now, if you look at the way these books are laid out, it is symmetrical. You've got 17 books that give you the historical events. Then 5 referred to as poetry, and another 17 which are the books of prophecy. But now look here, the first 5 of the first 17 are referred to as the law or the Torah. They're also referred to as the Pentateuch. Penta meaning 5, so 5 books. Now, depending on your background, you can remember that by pentagon if you're in the military, pentastick if you're a poet, pentagram if you worship Satan. Then the next 5 books are where it starts to look like a puzzle, because these books of poetry all plug back in to the historical books. The book of Job, those events take place in a time parallel with the early chapters of Genesis. Psalms, most were written by King David. In fact, the 51st Psalm was written out of the moral crisis that he was having committed adultery with Bathsheba and having her husband murdered. Incidentally, you're going to notice that the people of God do not get whitewashed, airbrushed in the Bible. Then the 90th Psalm is written by Moses. So that goes way back up there to the historical events. Proverbs, most but not all, are written by Solomon. He was a son of King David, and interestingly enough, he was a son as a result of the subsequent marriage between David and Bathsheba. Now, you'll also notice that the Proverbs do not belong with the law because they're not law. They're not even promises. They are principles. Then there is Ecclesiastes, also written by Solomon. One of the most dishearteningly discouraging, realistic books in all the world. And if you're depressed, do not read Ecclesiastes. Trust me, I know. Then you get the Song of Solomon, which a lot of people want to make purely allegorical, and certainly there is allegory in it, but it is also a picture of the sensual and sexual relationship between a husband and wife. So if you're over the age of 18, you might want to get the illustrated edition. Now, the last 17 books are the prophecies, with the first 5, all of which plug into the historical books, but the first 5 known as the major prophets, and the last 12 as the minor, because all those who wrote the minor prophets were all under the age of 18. No, I'm kidding. But that gives you a lineup, and the big so what is, if you don't know your past, you can't appreciate and really understand where you are now. Thanks, y'all.